Hiya, it's Hannah the Artisan Duck, and I thought today we'd make this really cute flower cane with bright yellow centre. We've got a Skinner blend in the middle for each petal, and yeah, really fun, really bright and really summery. So let's get crafting. Right, so to get started, I've already conditioned my white clay and I've rolled this out in a number 1, so it's my thickest setting on my pasta machine, and we're going to make a Skinner blend between this and some pale blue. And I wanted to do this so that the centre of the petal will have like a shading of blue and it'll fade out into a white, so each petal will be white right at the tip and with a little bit of shadow on the middle. So I've mixed up my pale blue here, and this is like a dark navy, and I started off with white and just added a little bit of blue each time until I got the colour that I thought would look good, basically. And I've made myself a square, so this is 8 centimetres square, and I've already decided that this side is 7 centimetres and this one is 3.5, so then this one is 4.5 here, so the whole thing adds up to 8, and then this one is 0.5 here, and that's, I'm going to cut around this is my template. So if I ever wanted to make this again, I know exactly what measurements I used. So I'm just going to cut out my clay, and obviously the blue is measured on a number 1 as well. And I won't show in massive detail how to do a Skinner blend because I've shown it before, but I'll just quickly cover the basics. So just cut these out. Right, so there's my shapes, and I'm just going to take it and move the blue so it's right up against the white, like that, and just sort of push it so it's really joining that white properly, like that there. Now I'm just going to take my roller, get that white off, and I'm just going to gently roll over it just to make sure they're all sticking together. Right, now to start the blend, you're just going to fold white corner to white corner and blue corner to blue corner, like that. She says, making a faff of it. Like that, and then I'm going to even out that crease. Now you can do this either with your roller or a clay machine. If you're using a clay machine, start on the thickest setting and you're going to roll. So I'm rolling from that folded end up towards the top, and that just pushes out any air that might be trapped, like that. I'm going to use my clay machine because it's just quicker and easier. So I'm going to roll that through with the fold facing into my machine, and then I'm going to, once I've done that, I'll come back and fold it again. There we go, so that's now been through my machine. So I'm going to fold it again. There's a little bit of yellow on my clay, that will work itself out, so don't worry about that. And every time you fold it, you're always going to fold the blue side like that and the white side together, and eventually these colours will just fade out. So that as the white mixes with this blue, you'll get a fade going up and into the clay. And I'm literally going to keep doing this. And once you're happy enough that you've got as much blend as you can on one thickness, then just take your pasta machine down another notch to like number 2 and keep on going until you're really happy with the blend that you've got. I've just moved my pasta machine down to number 2, but you can already see there's a really nice blend starting and it's fading out. So the top of that petal is going to be pure white. And because it's a daisy, obviously that's kind of what we need. So I'm just going to continue. Now I've reduced my pasta machine and keep on going to get that blend even better. Right, there we go. I don't personally feel the need to make that blend anymore because I'm really quite happy with how it's looking. I'm just going to cut this bulge off at the side. I don't know why it does that. It really annoys me though. Anyway, so now I'm going to pop it back through my pasta machine, but with the blue going in first. I just want to make it a bit thinner. So I'm going to take it down to a number 3 to start with, and then I'll continue working my way down, and I'll come back and show you when I've done that. Right, so that's the number 3. I'm going to go back in and roll it through on a number 4, but you can see that fade really has worked really nicely. There we go, that's on a number 4. I'm just going to go from here now, and I'm going to concertina, sort of fold it up. So we're going to put the blue on the bottom like that, and we're just going to fold it over. It doesn't need to be a big fold. I'll show you in a minute how much I've done. Let's see if I can pick it up. Can you see? It's just a little bit like that, and I'm just going to push it down so that's stuck all the way, and then fold it back. Just pick it up again and show you. So you're going to fold it back like that, and then compress it down again. And we're going to keep going like that until we've reached the top. There you go. That's all now folded up. I've gone a bit out on the white, but you know, we'll just push that in a minute like that. So that's all folded up now. I'm just going to push it down. I don't want any air trapped in there, so I'm just going to try and smooth out those any air bubbles at the sides that I might not have pushed down properly. And there. So I'm going to take the clay now, and I want to sort of give it a rounded shape, but I don't want to distort it. This blue needs to stay at the bottom and the white at the top. So I'm just going to start by sort of pressing those corners to round them off, and eventually I'll be able to roll it. Like I say, just be careful not to sort of twist it round so the blue gets to the top, because we need this blue to stay inwards like that. And the reason we're starting with the petals first as opposed to the centre of the flower is because I want to see, once I've cut all my petals and put them in a circle, I want to see how big the centre is, so I can gauge how big to make the centre. That'll make sense when you see what I'm going to do. But I'm just going to roll it and start getting it into a slightly more rounded shape. Right, I think at this point I'm going to reduce the length so we've got longer to work with, because once I've shaped the petals I then want to just be able to cut them to form the flower shape. So I'm going to continue now and just roll it so that I've got enough length to cut. I'm thinking maybe 8 petals. I want it to look like a full flower, but any more than 8 and I think it starts to get just really busy. So yeah, I'm just going to go away and I'll come back and show you how long it's got before I shape it any further. Right, so my cane is now a little over 16 centimetres long. So what we're going to do is start to shape the flower petal, and then we'll cut it into 2 centimetre pieces, and that will give us 8 petals, each of a length of 2 centimetres. So I'm going to put it down this way, and I'm going to start just pressing it. I want to get like an elongated flower petal shape, like that, just pressing it down. And I'm making sure the white is at the top and the blue is on the bottom, and it's quite an even, you know, I've got it so that it's exactly on its side, if that makes sense. And at the minute it'll just give us sort of an oval shape, and then we'll go in and refine it more. I would go in with my roller and do this, but I'm worried it's just going to stretch it out more, and I don't really want to do that, so I'm just going to take it with some caution so that I don't just completely mess it up before I've really started, because that's been known to happen. Try to take a shortcut and it always backfires. Right, so now we've got that shape, I'm going to start just pinching the blue so we get more of a flower petal shape. I want to leave it somewhat flat, so I don't want it to be like a really sharp point, because it's got to sit around whatever clay we put in the centre. So yeah, just go along and pinch it just to narrow that blue a little bit more. I've done that. My end's getting a bit messy and I know it's longer than I need it to be, so I'm just going to chop the end off here. I don't want to chop too much off though, because obviously once we've made the cane you'll chop the ends off again because it'll all distort. I'm going to go now and cut it into 2 centimetre pieces. So just find my ruler. Like that. You know what, my cane after all that has now got longer, and I've got enough to get 10 petals, so we're going to try it with 10 petals and see where we go. So there's one. I don't want to slice into my ruler, so I'm going to go and cut all this and come back and show you where I go from here. There we go, there's our basic flower shape, and I've just sort of positioned the petals in a circle like that so I can see that they're all roughly the same shape and size, they're all the same length. So this is sort of the basic flower. Now if we were to put it together like this, obviously put the centre in, we would end up with them all sort of merging together. So I'm just going to take this blue and we're going to roll it out so it's really thin and just put a piece on half of the petals. It'll make sense in a minute, but this, if you want to sort of make the same mix, this is the Fimo Professional navy blue, and I've mixed 1 circle of that. So I cut out circles and then I know how much I've made. So I've done 1 circle of blue to 3 circles of white. So I would make sure you remember how you mix your blue that you put around the petal, because this will be the colour that we put around the whole cane, and then this will be the base colour of your bead as well. If that doesn't make any sense, I will link a video at the end so you can go and watch how I make beads and pendants out of my cane. But I need this colour to be the same colour as my beads. You could do it with translucent if you wanted, but I just like to make it with the colour of the clay that I'm going to use as my base colour. So I'm going to take some of this, I don't need a lot, and I'm going to roll it out really thin, and I'm going to roll it through my pasta machine until probably about a 4 or a 5, but I'll come back and tell you which one it is. Right, so there's my clay. That's actually on a number 7, so that's really quite thin, and we're going to just take half the petals like that and separate them, and I'm just going to cut myself sort of a straight line like that. I'm going to try sort of guess how long I need this to be, so I don't want it to cover the edge of the blue there, it's just got to go down between the petals, so I'll take it sort of just before the end there, so I need it to be like that maybe. And then I'm going to just take this extra off to the side for a second. Got a straight edge like that. So what I'm going to do is put my piece on and sort of cut the size that I need. Just move these off so you can see. So I've just cut off a small section, the same length as my petal. And I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to position it so it's kind of against it, so that bit's still going to touch the flower centre, but this will keep the petals separate like that. I'm now going to wrap it over like that, and it's going to, here you go, it's pretty much even. You can always just move it around if you need to, but I think that doesn't look too bad. It'll be a lot easier to do if you're not looking through a camera. So there you go, that's got a little jacket round that petal. So I'm going to go and do the 3 remaining petals, and I'll come back and show you where I go from there. Right, so there's my 4 flower petals that are wrapped, and I've put them in the flower shape, alternating with the unwrapped ones. So I don't stick them firmly together because we need to open this back up again in a minute, but I'm just trying to gauge what size the centre is going to be. So I'm going to pop this to one side and bring the pieces in for that. For my flower centre, I've just got this very vibrant yellow, and I've actually mixed a bit of white in with it as well, just to try and sort of knock back that colour a little bit because it is really bright. But I'm just going to roll it a little bit like this and get it into sort of a cane shape, because we're going to wrap this now. I wanted to sort of have a contrasting colour around it, so we're going to wrap it in a green. So the inside will be green, and then we'll have the yellow centre, and then we're going to reduce this further and make like a dotty texture in the middle. I hope that kind of makes sense, but I'm just gonna, I don't want it too big, because if you think about how big this centre is, if you just put that straight in, it'd be fine, but I want a little bit more than that. So I think we'll just roll it out so it's not quite so thick, and then I'll probably chop some of this off because I'm not going to need anywhere near this much, and then I can save the rest of this for another project. Right, so I've just got a little bit of clay here, and it's only about 3 centimeters long, so it's not a lot, but we're just going to take some green, and again I will put all the colours below that I've used. This is a very bright Fimo green, and I've put some white in again to sort of take that colour back. I'm going to take this through my pass machine so it's quite thin, probably about a number 7 again, because I really do want this to be very thin and just sort of separate the yellow segments. So bear with me while I do that. Right, so there's my green and my yellow. I'm just going to cut a straight edge, and we're going to make a basic sort of bullseye cane. So I'm just going to take that, give myself a straight edge to work on. There's that one there, and then just pop that on. I clearly didn't cut a straight line because that really doesn't look straight, and we're going to cut there. I'm just going to pick like that, make sure that's stuck down, roll it round, and then make a mark. And if you can see that, it's just a very faint line. It's a bit bright in here, but there's a faint line where that green finishes, so I know where to cut my clay. So I'm just going to cut that like that, and we pick it up. We can just seal it up like that. The fact that it's not perfect doesn't matter because we're going to roll this out again. There we go, so I'm going to pop my spare green off to the other side. Right, so there's my centre, and I'm just going to now roll it. I really do want to reduce this quite a lot until it's quite tiny, and then we'll cut it and sort of cluster it and then roll it again. There we go, I've got that to a length that I'm reasonably happy with, so I'm just going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut it into 6 equal pieces, I think, and we're still going to roll it again. So, you know, obviously make sure it's not going to be too short, but we will be rolling this out again, so I'm just going to roughly do it at this point. There we go, so I've cut that into 6 equal pieces, and we're just going to sort of build it up into another cane like this. Oh, I could have maybe got another one there, so actually I will probably cut another piece. I've got enough left. So there we go, there's our 7 pieces, and we're just going to reduce this again because that's still too sort of chunky for my flower centre. So just gonna squeeze the air out. So start from the centre and squeeze up to push the air out, and once you're happy you've done that, you can start to roll it. So now I'm going to just take the ends off, have a quick look. There you go, and you can just see, if my camera will focus, that detail. I think, is it too bright? I think there's not a lot of contrast between them, so it's sort of, my camera's struggling, but yeah, sort of like that. And I think I'm going to, what do you reckon, cut it into 3 and squash together. Maybe that will work. So it's only on 5. If I can roll it out so it's 6 centimeters long, I can cut them into 2 centimeter pieces. I'm sure my maths is right on that one this time. There we go. So I'm going to go 2, 4, like that. I'm just going to pop them together like that and just roll again. I'm not looking for a uniform shape, like I don't want each of the circles to be totally uniform. I basically just want this sort of textured pattern in the middle. So again, I'm just going to squeeze it to get that air out the middle. So go from the centre and squeeze up on both sides. And once I'm happy with that, you can start to roll it again. Obviously we need it round to fit in the middle of my flower, and I don't want to reduce it down too many times now, because I'm aware that we're probably reaching the point that we can start putting that in, and I'd say that's pretty much right. Obviously we need to go neaten it up, but I wouldn't want to reduce it any further than that, I don't think. So I'm going to take that out. My clay is quite warm because it's really warm here today. That's silly. And I'm going to chop the end off. There you go. You can actually see all that detail there. Like that. I hope you can. It seems a bit bright. There we go. And I'm just going to pop this in the middle, and we're going to start just positioning around and making sure all fits in nicely. There we go. Make sure the back is the same. I'll obviously cut that excess off in a minute, but we want to make sure that those flower petals are all sitting, so the base is sitting against it, and we can always just squeeze it in if we need to, just like that. And then I'm gonna, you can see that's just helped fill the gaps a little bit, and then I'm gonna go in and cut that end off. You can see the front and back, we've got that flower shape. So the only thing left to do now is to wrap the whole cane in blue, and we're going to use the same blue that we've used here, and we're going to start off slowly by wrapping these alternate petals just right down into here, and then we'll build it up so that we've got sort of a nice consistent surround, so that we can then start to reduce it. So I'm just going to bring in my super thin blue clay again that I used before, and this is obviously on a number 7. I've got a little bit of it here already cut as well, so I'm just going to have to take my time with this. I'm going to push it down into the gap almost as far as it will go between these flower petals. It's going to be hard to show on camera, so like that. And then we're going to wrap it round and push it into that corner. So I think I'm just going to get a little tool to help me. I'm going to sort of bend it and push down, because obviously we've got this blue going here between them, so they're not going to merge. That's just going to meet like that. I'm just going to make sure the other side is stuck down, and we're going to, I say my clay is really sticky today, push it in, and then once I've cut it I can push it even further if needs be. And I'm going to take my blade and cut the excess clay like so. Oops, I've cut the petal. And then just take out the extra clay, and then go back in with your tool and just neaten up the ends and the edge, and sort of pushing that clay down. I made a bit of a mess of that one, but you get the idea. Don't worry about building up this other side anyway, because we're going to be doing that in a minute when we wrap the clay round. So I'm just going to go in and trim off that excess there. And also the ends will get cut off when we've reduced it down. So scrape off some of the blue, don't leave it all on, but you can start to see that when those petals meet, they're going to be split. Maybe the front's better. They're going to be split while the blue going around the petal, and this top one now is just going to start to support it for when we reduce the cane down. I'm going to go away and wrap the remaining petals because I don't think I can do this looking through a camera screen, so I shall come back when I've done that. Right, so there's your sort of, each petal is now wrapped on this cane. So what's left to be done is just to pack in between all these spaces and make sure that when we reduce it down, we're not going to squash any of these details, and they're all going to stay nicely in place. So my favourite way to do that is just take your offcuts that you've just been using. It's the same blue obviously, and I'm just going to roll like little snakes of clay, and we're going to start by feeding them down into these gaps. So they need to be quite thin, so I shall do that and sort of either fast forward and show you the process of how I do that, or come back and show you, but let me just roll this clay out and get it to where I need it to be. Right, so I've got my little snakes of clay and my flour, and I'm just going to start by feeding it down into the gap between the petals. It's stuck to my finger because it's warm, and then I'm going to use my tool just to push it in there because it doesn't want to behave today, like so. You really want to make sure that the petals are well supported, because otherwise when you do, if you don't and you reduce it, everything will just mush together, and it's so disappointing after putting all this work in to not have it work. So just start packing out there with little snakes of clay. Just going to pinch off with my finger and then move across to the next one and continue until you've gone all the way around the petals. There we go, we've now done sort of in the tightest gap between the petals, and we're just going to continue building it up with more clay. You don't need to have it quite so thin this time. You can start going in with like chunkier pieces and literally just keep building up until you've wrapped it all the way around, and your sort of support here is the same height as your flower petals, and you can even do one last wrap in this blue as well if you wanted to. So I'm going to go away and just continue to pack this flower up, and I shall show you when I've done it. There you go. I feel quite happy with how that's now all been sort of filled out. So all that's left to do is to reduce the canes to use it. So just squeeze from the middle, sort of turn it round, and again you're just squeezing that air out. And because this is quite a short cane as well, you want to sort of try and get some length so that you can sort of start to then reduce it properly. But just gently start off, and then when you're happy you can start to roll it and all that good stuff. So I'm not going to make you watch me do this. I will go off and do this. I would rather it sort of sit and rest for a minute, but as ever, I'm up against a time restraint, so I'm just going to continue, and I shall come back and show you when I've done it. I hope this is bright enough, because one of my lights is just packed in, but I just thought I would cut it and show you the finished cane. It's always the moment of truth. Let's see if it's worked. It has. There we go. There is our flower. Sort of, I wanted it to look like a daisy. It kind of does, but there's our pretty blue and white flower with our bright yellow centre, and if you look really carefully you can just see that green detail as well. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I shall put all the links below for sort of the products I've used, and the blog post where I'll put this tutorial as well, and for a link for where you can go and find the video that says how to use your cane in jewellery. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.